I'll speak in English as I don't speak Russian. Sorry, but I'm very happy to be here this afternoon and very honored to be able to talk to you about entrepreneurship. So just to give you a little bit of a background of what I've done in my life to better understand what's coming. So I graduated with a diploma in biotechnology and worked for 7 years in molecular biology in France and in the United States, and came back to France, worked for a little startup in biotechnology, and the startup closed, and I was like, okay, I want to do something else with my life. I like biology, but was tired of it. So with my partner, we started a web marketing agency in Saint-Ouen, France, that I had for 7 years, helping small and medium companies with their marketing strategy, getting new markets abroad. And at the same time, I also had an e-commerce company selling paraveterinarian products for dog, cats, and horses that I had for 2 years. It was very interesting, gave me perspective on what's e-commerce, how to deal with logistics. It was really nice. And then about 4, maybe almost 5 years ago, moved to Paris. And at the beginning, I was helping startups with their marketing strategy going to the US. And worked with a lot of startups that were in the hardware space. And very often when you work in hardware, you need to run a crowdfunding campaign in order to get money to go into production and manufacturing. And I knew the team at Indiegogo since I had run campaign there. And about 3 years ago, I was at CES, the big consumer electronics show in Las Vegas, and there was a lot of French startups there. And the team at Indiegogo was like, oh, we need to have someone on the ground to keep an eye on what's happening there. And I was like, me? So that's how I got the job at Indiegogo. Now I'm actually, my job at Indiegogo is helping startups, not only startups, I would say companies, because we work with all sizes companies, but it's helping companies with preparing for the campaign and giving a lot of advice, all the onboarding process. And and I'm in charge of Europe, so I get the chance to travel a lot and see a lot of the different ecosystem. So now let's jump into the subject, today's subject. So we'll be talking about entrepreneurship, and first, like I was telling you, in my life, great opportunities are rare, and you need to be prepared to seize them when they present, and respect them and give them everything you have. So like for example, for me, when I was working in molecular biology back in France, I traveled to the US on vacation, really liked it. So I was like, when I came back, I was like, I want to go and work in the US. And I asked my boss back then in France, and he was like, okay, I'll help you. And it's actually him who found me the job in the US. So when great opportunities present, they are rare, seize them. I see a lot of entrepreneurs. It's a very trendy subject, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs who are playing at being a startup, but not really giving everything they have. And it can be fun. It can be fun being an entrepreneur, but it still stays work. It's not a game. You are a brand how many of you in the room are actually entrepreneurs, have a company? Raise your hand. Okay. And who is gonna start a company or plan to? Okay, cool. When you'll be the head of your company, you'll be the one that represents the company. You'll be the company as a brand. but you'll be also a brand as a CEO of the company. So treat it same way, build it correctly, and think that you'll be the image of the company. That's one of my favorite quote. When people tell me, "Oh, Pascal, you are so lucky to work at Indiegogo." Yes, I'm lucky, but I haven't won to the lottery yet. So that's not that kind of luck. For me, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Like I was telling you, I was in Las Vegas at CES, and when the opportunity presented to me of joining Indiegogo, I was ready to seize it. So that's a very important quote, that there is not really such thing as luck. It's more like being prepared to seize the opportunity that comes your way. Always be learning. All great CEOs read and spend their time learning all the time on new things, on new way to manage, on new ideas to come. So that's very interesting. Never be the smartest person in the room. That might be a little bit elastic to say something like that, but you're not going to learn from people who are not smarter than you, and that's why it's very important to surround yourself with smart people that can teach you and challenge your idea and brings you up. So it goes with the idea of usually we are the average of the 5 people that surrounds us. So think about in your network the people you want to have around. Success equals networking, and from my experience, that's really what led me where I am today. Don't be shy. That's one thing. And networking is really what's going to open opportunities for you. Don't, how to say that? Think about LinkedIn, for example, is a great way for you to access people that you wouldn't automatically meet. And when you go to events and you have speakers, don't be shy and go chat with the speaker after. They are usually attending this kind of conference to meet people and help. So don't be shy and go. And it goes with the idea of never eat alone. It's the name of a book, but with the idea of why would you spend your time alone when you can meet people and actually increase your network and challenge your idea. And that's very interesting. It goes really with the idea of networking. Who knows you instead of not who you know. It's better if the idea here is people. It's about who knows you, and you are the connector, that everybody knows you and will come to see you when they need something and ask for something. So it's more like in the idea of how can you help people. Learn from failure. But we see also lately a trending topic where we almost make failure like not a big deal. And it is not, but at the same time it is, because you should aim for success, not for failure, but learn from your failure. Now we'll go more into the venture building, and real company makes money. I see too many startups. Once again, goes with the idea of a little bit playing startup instead of really being one, and works with. It's not only corporate, but I see a lot of startups that are willing to get some few clients to do not make any money. And a real company makes money, and you should aim for that. Everything is sales. It's like everything is marketing, at the same time everything is sales, because you have to learn on how to sell your company, how to sell your product, but it applies even in our day-to-day life, where if you want to have an apartment, you'll have to learn on how to sell yourself in order to get the apartment. In the life of your company, it's going to be the same for hiring people. You're going to have to sell your company in terms of like make it sexy and attract talents for your company. Business model, not business plan. It goes with the idea that business model is more flexible and allows you to change and do modification along the way instead of having a business plan that is usually a lot more rigid, if it makes sense. Think international from the beginning. It's something that, for example, coming from France, where we are almost 70 million people, you can get very comfortable in just at the beginning doing a domestic market. And it doesn't help you because you are focusing first only on domestic market and be like, oh, now it's working, so I'll go and try new market in the countries nearby. And for me, that's a mistake, because if you look at some of the smaller countries, like, I don't know, Estonia or in the Nordics, where the local market is small, they think big from the start. And you can see that you have better companies getting out of those countries because they think international since the beginning. And even when you are going to hire talents coming from abroad, because it's hard to find them locally, you are going to have to manage with another language potentially. So it's better to do it right from the start. Find mentors and advisors. Don't do things on your own or by yourself. Surround yourself with people who can really help you move forward and advise you on your company and how with the strategy, and open their network. So listen to your advisors because they have experience and they can really help you. But at the same time, don't listen to them because it's your idea, and you know where you want to take this idea, and you have also your instincts sometimes that tells you that you should go this way. So that's really finding the right balance in between these two. Pay the lawyers. I'm saying that because I see also a lot of startups or companies that are small and don't automatically have a lot of money. But actually, lawyers are extremely important because they are going to help you protect your intellectual property. They are going to help you with your hiring, employment contracts, and they are there to really help and protect your company. So don't be cheap and pay the lawyers. Relationship buildings, mostly with media and investors, takes time. It's not like when you need them that you are going to contact them. Just start building those relationships, and if you want them to be efficient, it's mostly what can you do for them before what can they do for you. So start early and look at the investors. Mostly, like when you look at investors and you look at funds, very often they have like very specific target. Like they are going to be only in software, only in hardware, some at the early stage, some later on. So look and find the one that could be interesting for you and build those relationships. And same with media. If you want to have media coverage, it's called press relation for a reason. It's because there is a relation. So you need to build on that. Ideas matter, but you are probably not the only one to have had the idea because of the evolution of technology because we are a lot of people on Earth. Your idea is probably not the only one that exists. So ideas matter, teams matter, and great teams can take an average idea and make it great. As an average team that has a great idea but will execute in an average way. So this sentence is really important because a great team can take any idea and make it great by really thinking and pivoting and changing the way. As if you only have average competencies, you won't be able to get these kind of results. Learn to do everything that needs to be done and then hire someone to do it better. The idea here is at the beginning, you are a small team and you're going to have to learn to do everything, you know, like accounting, marketing, communication, all the technological aspect. But as soon as you grow and you have the resources to hire people, do it to find the best people to do these jobs, and you as a CEO just focus on running the company. Funding matters, obviously, because it's how you are going to run your company. You need to have money to run it. Don't raise too little, because if you don't raise enough money, you won't be able to execute correctly and do everything you had planned to do. But at the same time, don't raise too much money, because raising too much money means you are going to probably give too much equity and you are going to be too diluted. But at the same time, raising too much capital means more pressure on your shoulders. So same idea of find the right amount of money you need to execute. Execution matters. I think that's one of the sentences we hear more often because it's usually all about execution, on having a strong strategy and all the different actions to put in place. So that's probably one of the most important sentences that you'll hear today. Execution matter. And perfect is the enemy of the good. That's also very important to stay in the idea of lean development, where you have a first product, and instead of getting it perfect, get it tested by your community and do it by implementation to get to a very good product. But if you spend too much time on getting a perfect product, you might miss on timing in your market, which leads us to the next one. So ideas matter, team matter, funding matter, execution matter, but timing might matter most because if you might have everything, but if you are too early, it's going to be difficult for you to get clients, and if you are too late, probably someone will have already done it. So it's timing that is really important. And now, go change the world. Thank you.
Уважаемые участники, вопросы к Паскалю? Okay. Спасибо большое, Паскаль. Окей.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Мирас. Я бы хотел бы задать вопрос, только... Да, могу просто на английском даже задать, если хотите. Okay. Hello, my name is Miraz. What's your favorite books? Maybe you advice? Your favorite books, three top books. Thank you.
Favorite books. The thing is, I don't know the name in English. Usually, sorry. That's a good question. The three top books. I don't have the name in English because they are in French, but it's around lean development, because I find it extremely interesting as a method on how to work, and another one that is on how to be a good CEO. I can send you the link. And what would be the third one? I think there is another one that is more like about how to live, you know, like not trying to do not stress too much, because I'm a stressed person, so trying to stay a little bit more relaxed. Yeah, just to try to take things a little bit different, you know, of not being stressed and enjoying life, if it makes sense. Yeah. It's a difficult question on when, because you are gonna have big difference in between. Like if it's hardware, potentially it's gonna take a lot of time to be profitable, because you are probably before going into retail. That's gonna be hard, as potentially if you are a service, the except for the development cost and paying developers, but the overall cost is not really that high, so you can be profitable very fast. Does it answer your question? I don't have the number for that. I don't know. I don't know, because once again, it will depend on from one structure to another. It will be specific to a field, so I don't really have the number for that. But for sure, a startup that is in services or digital is going to go a lot faster than if it's in hardware space.
So first of all, Mr. Koндамин, thank you for coming to Kazakhstan and sharing your experience and knowledge and giving us this presentation. Yesterday you have given a lecture regarding crowdfunding, right? And today you are explaining us the topic of venture investments and venture building, right? So my question is, would you advise to Kazakhstan like stress the topic of venture investment, especially with crowdfunding, taking into account the governmental situation and corporate situation here in Kazakhstan, since government is mostly the main resource that putting money into startups, and corporations, they cannot fund them. Usually they do not want to fund them. Why? Because they are the monopolist of the market. And if I'm not mistaken, Indiegogo, what it is doing, it has these startups, but it suggests these entrepreneurs not to go to big investors, right? But rather look for resources around the people, right? And people actually can make money with this one, right? So would you suggest to Kazakhstan, taking our economical, political, and social situation, since people here are actually looking for the places they can make money, right? Would you tell that it is a very profitable model for development in Kazakhstan? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would say crowdfunding, maybe yesterday I should have been more specific, but crowdfunding usually is more specific, at least the one reward-based, where you get money and you have a reward in exchange of the money, which is like on the idea of pre-selling a product. And it works very well for a product, like physical product. It's a lot harder to run a campaign for a digital product, like a SaaS or service or app, because backers tend to support more a campaign where they get something physical in exchange. So crowdfunding, I would say, for any hardware product company, not automatically like just a startup. For example, this week I had a campaign in France for a coat. So like it's fabric, it's beautiful coat, but it's not like technological. So but they are now 100% funded. They raised 30,000 euros and sold already several coats. So it's a good idea when you have a product. Also, I think crowdfunding answers a need of I need to find money, but usually when it's hardware or product, it's very hard to, there is not that many funds ready to invest at the early stage of the company because they need to see traction for the product, if it makes sense. So crowdfunding is a good thing and answers a need for this part of not having a lot of money in the hardware funding. Now, when we are talking globally, when I look at what happened in France, that has changed very fast in the past few years, I think what made it work in France is the fact that government was putting a lot of money behind the ecosystem and mostly funding through, we have our public bank of investment in France, and through that bank, this public bank, putting a lot of money in the early stage of the startups. But at the same time, it doesn't work. The government can put money, but if the entrepreneurs and the ecosystem doesn't get behind it, it doesn't work. And also, what made it work, I think there is not just really one reason, but corporates also played along, and they all started their innovation program, incubation, whatever. But at the same time, started their own VC fund, venture capital fund. So they weren't just potentially working with startups and accelerating them, but also funding them. So government was funding, but also venture corporate funds. And the third element was, since the startup ecosystem was booming and having more and more startups, it really attracted more capitals coming from other countries like US or UK or even Germany. So I would say for Kazakhstan, you need to have, if you want to make it work, my experience would be you need to have places for entrepreneurs to be able to be at one place and potentially network and talk to each other. But also would be, you have plenty, I'm sure plenty of people from Kazakhstan who left and went to work abroad, and you need to attract back this talent to bring back the knowledge in the country, if it makes sense. Does it answer your question?
Basically, your advice would be, at the first step, we still need to nurture our entrepreneurs, and mainly with the help with the government and corporations, right? And only after the product is kind of a little bit developed and we have money return and profit, after that we can actually put it to crowdfunding. Because people here are more concerned with how they can benefit from all of this, because from their side, the only actors who are benefiting right now is only the government and the corporations.
Yeah, but and if you need to have, I mean, we live in a global world where it's not really that difficult to reach out to people. Like I said, LinkedIn is your best friend. I don't have any participation in LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is your best friend in a way that you can find people who can help you, and I'm sure you can find plenty of advisors or mentors who will be willing to spend few hours here and then to help you and move forward. So also don't be shy, and that's why earlier I was saying networking is really important. If you don't have the competencies here, go look for them somewhere else.
Нет компетенции здесь, в стране, ищите ее где-нибудь еще.
Hi, Pascal again.
Hi.
Yesterday I was listening to another presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your very deep thoughts in your presentation. And I will try to express my one idea as a question. I have a marketer background, and I've been working in corporations, in big companies, and also I was a participant with some startup companies as well. And sometimes I do feel that I'm ready to become an entrepreneur by myself and to start kind of business. And when I was asking one of my advisors, how can I understand that I'm ready? And because I do feel that I lack some courage. And he advised me to start some startup within my company, within my current company. Do you think is it right advice? Because, you know, while working here, I do feel that maybe I am losing some time, wasting.
It's funny, I gave a presentation this morning at the Tech Startup Weekend, and I had exactly the same question. That's a difficult one, because being an entrepreneur is taking a risk. So at some point you have to jump and say, okay, I'll take the risk of being an entrepreneur, and maybe I'll fail, but if I execute and if I listen to people, you'll succeed. So think that's the fear is I'm scared to fail, but you don't live in the right mindset if you think like that. Is okay, I'm leaving my company, but it's to make something big and that it's going to work. You understand? You know, like go with a positive attitude. If after that's nice to say that, but sometimes you also have like a family and things like that. So it might not be that easy to say, okay, I leave everything and start my new stuff, and not having salaries potentially for 6 months or a year until my company makes money. So I would say potentially entrepreneurship, like having something within your company, can be at least something at the beginning to explore for your idea on what are going to be the resources needed in order to build my company, but also test potentially the market. Is there really a need for my idea? What I've seen often is when I ask CEO when they pitch their idea and startup, and when you ask, but what's your solution is solving, which problem is solving your solution, sorry. Very often I get like a blank, and it really needs to solve a problem if you want to have the market for it, and what's the size of the market. Is it just like few people who have the problem, or is it a bigger? And if it's only few, how can you potentially pivot a little in order to make it and have a broader audience, if it makes sense.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much. Really appreciate your presentation. I had a question regarding your internal core values at Indiegogo, and how do you apply them in a company? And also if you have statistics or data of which sector are the most successful funded companies that you had.
Thank you. The core value at Indiegogo. Before I joined, and all the people I met from Indiegogo at conferences, they all have this like very positive attitude, like bubbly, and I think that's part of probably the hiring process of finding people that you want to have in your company. Indiegogo it's US-based, headquartered in San Francisco, and they have this strong value in terms of having as many women as guys, no discrimination policy, and all these things, and also asking every month to have. For me, it's a little bit different because I'm based in Paris. I'm not really in contact with the team in San Francisco, but I still get all the emails on what are redefining the core value of the company every quarter, chatting about it and how can we make our work better, but also going faster potentially, and what people expect also from Indiegogo that has an impact also on the way you work. And what was the second question?
And the second, the most successful companies that were funded, in which sector or maybe?
So the big campaigns we've had, so the trending, let's start with that. The trending categories on Indiegogo are usually, right now, are mobility. So we get a lot of mobility products, mostly like when we look with a few weeks ago, Mate, that got 12.7 million on the platform. It's our biggest campaign right now for a folding e-bike. So mobility is a very strong category with a lot of e-bike, e-scooter, longboard, and etc. What else? Home device also we get a lot because we've been working with corporate like General Electric or Whirlpool running campaigns on Indiegogo. So by default we also had Coca-Cola, Gillette. So we had a lot of brands running campaigns on Indiegogo, which attracts a big set of backers that are going to be interested in home products. Kitchen, home security, and a lot of the outdoors product also, like for walking or camping, works pretty well as well. I would say potentially it will depend on the season to run this kind of campaigns, but yeah.
Next question.
Здравствуйте всем. Я сразу более... Вот сразу вопрос конкретный, да? Вот есть конкретная модель. Второй или третий? Есть конкретная модель, ее надо вывести на как Индиго, Гого, да? Вот наш стартап надо туда вывести. Нам нужно конкретный специалист, который выгодно может разместить вот этот наш стартап. Вот такой вопрос.
Okay.
Есть ли такие специалисты? Можете посоветовать? То есть нам нужен конкретный специалист, ее данные, контакты, примерно так. Вот чтобы реально, чтобы работать. Не нужен нам такой советчик, который подскажет, реально, чтобы можно было работать. Спасибо. Ближе к делу, что.
So I think one of the strong point of working with Indiegogo is we have a very strong support team. So not in Russian, unfortunately, it's going to be with English, in English, but when you want to run a campaign on Indiegogo and you contact the Indiegogo, me if you want, I'll be happy to help. But once you want to run a campaign on Indiegogo, you get a campaign manager who is going to be here to help you and advise you to prepare for the launch. And also have potentially before the launch campaign strategist that will do a review of your page and give you feedback before you launch. Does it answer your question?
Thanks a lot, Pascal.
Thank you for having me. Really happy.